Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and these are the Night Terrors. And of course, this is a special episode. We are Christmas Eve. Awesome. Hope you guys, well, I mean, for those of you that celebrate Christmas, I suppose it's maybe not a fantastic day for everybody, but it's Christmas Eve. So in the spirit of Christmas, I just wanted to bring you the best show I could, whether or not you celebrate it. There's all kinds of other holidays that you might gravitate towards. So happy holidays to everybody. And I hope you guys are doing wonderful and that you have an opportunity to be with the people you love. And even if that's us right here, we can be people you love too, because of course we love all of you. Don and I would like to wish all of you an amazing holiday. You guys have been incredible, obviously, for us. And this family that we've grown and created has been nothing short of amazing. And I'm very grateful for the presence of all of you here. Not only during the shows, but in between shows when you're emailing and when you're sending me messages on social media or wherever you might be getting in touch with us. But it's really cool, and I really enjoy it, and I thank you all dearly for that. It's become such an important part of my days that I can't wait to get up and just see what's happened while I was sleeping. But anyway, welcome everybody. This is our Christmas Eve show. Nothing too extraordinary. It's just been a busy day. I don't know, just in getting the last stuff done prior to the holiday day. Which, for us is not going to be anything huge here at the Portal household. We just, it's just the missus and the minion and I, but, we still like to have a nice time and it's going to be fun to watch the minions explode some presents tomorrow. We let him sneak one open tonight and it was fun just to see that look in his eyes. 'Cause he's finally really at an age now where it's like, this is the fun age, where he's looking at all those presents and he's just tweaking out, just waiting to tear into them. So we kind of whet his appetite tonight with one open, and I understand that's a tradition to other people. So I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. That's kind of a cool idea. So he got to open one tonight. And he had a lot of fun with it, and it was cool. He got a Transformer stuff, some Transformers, I guess it was more than one, but he's also at the age where they're cool too. So I don't know how the hell to do those damn things. They're just like these cars, and then they're robots, and in between you got to have like a degree in calculus to get it from one to the other. But I don't know. He'll get it sorted long before I will, I'm sure. So anyway, that's just a little peek into my world, but I hope you guys are doing wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, I should probably have connected the Skype, huh? I did not do that yet. I kind of dropped the ball on that. Let's listen to the Skype song together. Oh, it was a quick journey, but it answered rather fast, so that's good. Waiting for the call board to refresh, and we should be good to go, but the call board will be open if you want to call into the show. 720-923-0500 if you want to call in and be a part of the show. I'd love to have you be a part of the show. So That's an option for you if you're so inclined. But otherwise, it's going to be just me sitting here talking to you, which I'm happy to do if that means that you are thoroughly entertained. Special Merry Christmas out there to my family, who I can't be with. I miss you all terribly. I love you all dearly. And I hope you guys are staying close and warm and enjoying each other's company. Of course, our hearts are with you. So, let's see where we are. Anything else going on? Don't forget to watch the podcasts. Don put together a really good podcast for tomorrow, and that'll be released as of midnight tonight or right thereabouts. So if you want to check that out, and we kind of did a feel good theme for this one, so it's not really as scary a podcast or as dark, and so it's kind of fitting for the holiday, I think. So I hope you'll enjoy it. But that'll be available as of midnight or thereafter, wherever you find your podcasts. Again, Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, and a gajillion other ones that are out there, which are options for you to download at your as you desire, as it were. But let's see what else is there. Oh, don't forget, the Paranormal Portal, Paranormal Investigation Journal is still available on Amazon. You can check that out. Again, it's a ability to hopefully cohesively journal paranormal investigations and help you organize the information that you should be getting if you're doing it the right way. So that is available on Amazon, and the link is in the description below, so you can check that out. What else? Oh, of course, don't forget about the offer that Don and I put together for all of you out there. If you want to head to our Teespring site, teespring.com/stores/paranormal-portal, and use the promo code portal, all capital letters, PORTAL 2020, to get an additional 15% off until December 31st at midnight. As soon as the new year kicks in, I guess here, I don't know. So I wouldn't run it to the wire because I'm not sure how that's set up for what time zone, but just do it before it gets real late. And if you get pinched on that, let us know. I'm sure we can help you out if you don't get the offer that you're supposed to. So that's available, just to say thank you to all of you and show you how much we appreciate your continued support here on the portal. But anyway, that's enough of the laundry list. Get ready. I hope you're all tucked in and warm because it's time for bed. Ooh, that just gives you chills, doesn't it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got some stories pulled up for you, and hopefully these are, I don't know, I hope they're not all dark and brooding either. It's the night before Christmas, of course, and you know how that old saying goes, but I tried to pull up some stories that I think were at least seasonally appropriate in order to celebrate the time of year. So the first one tonight is coming out of the state of Illinois. And let's see what's going on there. And this one has to do with apparitions. Ooh. It says, although my mom would not say she believed in ghosts, she would not deny their existence either. As she put it, just in case one is listening and decides to give us proof. However, she was not without her own experiences, as the following account shows. It was Christmas Eve, 1946, in the projects of Chicago. The twins were about 8 years old, and my oldest brother was only 2. My mom was saddened that there would be no Santa for them this year. Although the Great Depression has ended, America was still really struggling. And my dad brought home $15 a week, almost $9 would be set aside to pay the rent on their small apartment. And that didn't leave much left to live on for the family of 5. And every penny was earmarked just for survival. Well, she'd been waiting on my father to return from work so that she could go to the grocery store to pick up a few much-needed items. Mrs. Bowman, the neighbor lady, knocked at the door with a message from my father. He would be home later than expected, and she would have to go without him. My parents didn't have a phone, and she even offered to sit for the kids. And as it was getting dark and my mom had to hurry to get there before the store closed. In those days, stores closed early on Christmas Eve. I think they're doing that still. Walmart here in this town, closed at like 6 p.m. So, that's Walmart, for God's sakes. They never deny some money. So I was pretty impressed. So, winter can be bitter in Chicago, and the wind bit my mother's bare legs and sliced through her old coat as she walked the 4 blocks to the store. My mom always wore dresses no matter what. She was nearly frozen as she approached the store's parking lot, and she felt something wrap itself around her ankle. And looking down and pulling it off, she saw it was a $5 bill. $5. It was a small fortune in those days. Well, she looked around for its owner and someone who might have dropped it even. And even though she was sorely tempted to just cram it into her pocket, she then saw the man standing nearly hidden in the shadows. "Excuse me," she said, approaching him, "but have you lost something?" He took a step from the shadows, and she was struck by the fact that although he didn't appear dressed for the cold, he wore only a jacket, and he didn't appear cold. He smiled at her, the most beautiful smile she has ever seen. He says, "Yes, ma'am, $5 to be exact." "Well, then this is yours." She extended the bill towards him. "Keep it, and get the kids something nice." My mom's jaw fell open. The second half of what he said wouldn't hit her until later. "Are you sure? It's an awful lot." But the man had already turned and walked off, cutting across a section of fresh snow. "Thank you. Merry Christmas," she called after him, as she assumed he disappeared into the darker shadows. But, and she was adamant about this, he left no prints in the snow where he walked. She went and took a good look, and when she finished shopping, but her Christmas miracle didn't end there. Inside on the long table was an assortment of plastic toys, and she quickly chose 2 plastic toys, a dress-me-up dolls and a red fire truck. The owner of the store was working at the counter, and he placed some candy into her bag, telling her to hush when she objected. He knew our family, and he wanted to be allowed to spoil those babies, just a little. My mother says that never had a bag full of groceries felt so light to carry on the walk home. Back home, Mrs. Bowman left and returned with some fabric scraps that she thought were big enough to create outfits for the dolls. And soon they had the kids fed and put down, and they busied themselves with sewing tiny dresses until my father came home, lugging behind him a small tree. The reason he was late was he had the chance to work for a friend at a Christmas tree lot, and this one was left over. Then the friend let him have it and paid him a whopping 50 cents to boot. You can say coincidence and folks being kind all you want. My mom would say that when telling this story, but you tell me what kind of man could possibly know that I had kids and leave no prints in the snow except for a Christmas spirit. Ooh, that just gives me chills. That's a good story. Ooh. So what do you guys think, huh? How about those kind of ghost stories? Those are awesome. And those are kind of the stuff of legend. You don't hear about those kind very much. We hear about the kind that like to throw dishes and watch people cross their hallway and walk their stairs. But we don't get a lot of this kind where it's, I don't know, in a very, very intelligent type of haunt. And I don't mean to say haunt in a degrading way, but it's a spiritual presence of some kind. And to do such altruistic things. I mean, could it be an angel? Sure, could be. Could be that there are Christmas spirits. Could be there are benevolent spirits walking around trying to help wherever they can and are able to manifest incredible things. I don't know. But I think it's important to believe in miracles, you know. Miracles are powerful. And they don't have rules attached to them. They just happen. So when they happen, I think you just gotta really open your eyes to get the big picture of things. Anything is possible. I think that's a beautiful story. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Let's go to the next story. Yeah, exactly, Moog. Just checking the chat here. Sorry if I'm missing the chat. I haven't been looking at it too much, but just keeping my eyes on the prize, which is the stories I'm reading you. All right, let's go to this one, and comes from California. This one doesn't sound as happy. This one, it's titled "A Sad Christmas Eve." So I'm a little hesitant to read this one because it's not really the spirit I want the show to be in tonight, but I hope it's sad with a happy ending. I don't know. We'll get to it and find out, I guess. Let's see. It was the first holiday without our father, and we had felt really strange. It was a tossed salad of emotions. On one hand, it was for the best. Our parents just didn't get along, and the fighting was terrible, and we hid in our rooms as we listened to the bickering. And finally it was over, and they sat us down one day and told us that they were getting a divorce. We knew it was a good thing in a way, and I was relieved. No more listening to the grown-ups acting like children, and this is what it felt like. I took charge of the younger kids, and I kept them away from the slaps that rang out when Daddy and Mom lost their tempers. Anyway, Daddy moved on, and Mom, well, she did the best she could, I guess. The first year was really hard, but we tried to find normalcy in everyday playing, going to school, just being kids. The first Christmas was a somber affair. We had been told in advance that there wasn't enough money for presents that year, and I hope my dad didn't have much to do with it, but I suspected he wasn't sending much, if any, child support, and we were barely getting by as it was. I was a sickly kid. Something was always happening to me, but I understand it all now. As a sensitive with gifts, my body was under tremendous effort. Anyway, not to dwell on all the aspects of my story, I want to tell you about our first Christmas we lived without our father. My brother was being fitted in a costume, and he was going to be playing an angel in the Christmas pageant, and I kept arguing with my mom and telling her the costume wasn't right. Angel wings were way bigger and wider and with large arches where it curved downward. And I remember my brother saying, "How would you know?" He laughed. Well, I was indignant but couldn't say a thing back. But I had seen real angels, and I knew what their wings looked like. Who would believe me anyway? So I just stayed silent, just fuming at myself. Well, the evening progressed, and my mother was sitting in her chair next to the doorway of our bedroom, and we were listening to Christmas music and reading, and all of us kids were laying around on the carpet, quiet for once, engrossed in whatever we were doing. I caught a glimpse of something to my right, so I looked at the movement, and in the doorway to our bedroom stood an old man who had on high-waisted pants with suspenders and a plaid shirt. And I remember blurting out, "Who is that man?" My mother looked up from her book and said very matter of fact, "Oh, that's your great-grandfather. That would make him my grandfather. He died before I was born, and he likes to visit during the holidays." I had never seen him around in the past. My brothers and sisters were looking at me and my mom like we had just lost our minds, and she went on to explain that she had been given just one picture of him, and when he manifested himself, he always appeared in those clothes. "What man?" my brother sputtered. "I don't see anybody," one of my sisters chirped up. And by the time everyone was through commenting on what had transpired, the old man was gone. He didn't say a thing. He never lived in this old house and had died in another country. And it was the first and only time my mother wanted to discuss the ghost of her grandfather, and she didn't say much. As soon as he was gone, she acted like it never happened. Well, after this, we never discussed the paranormal again. Over the years, I think she liked to think of this as her own little secret, and I can't explain it here, but she was a bit narcissistic. I wonder why he showed himself to just me and my mom. Any ideas? I think it was just that you and the person writing that and the mom were the only ones that could see them. Perhaps the other children didn't have the gift. I don't like that term gift, but, it seems to create a division or to be a divisive thing like, "You're not gifted, of course. You need to be gifted." Well, I don't think that some people are gifted and some people aren't. Some people are just tuned into those gifts. more than others. And that's the key. I don't think that there are some people that have this and some people that don't. I think it's intrinsic in all of us, but most of us just aren't able to tune into it. And so maybe that's the gift, being tuned in or not. But I don't know. It still comes across as, to me, it's divisive. I don't think it's a good way to summarize it. But my 2 cents for what it's worth. Oh, God, the font is horribly small. Hold on, I got to blow this one up. All right, that's much better. Excuse me. All right, so this one's coming from Arizona. It says, 3 days before Christmas, I was with clients at a sacred place here in Sedona. Now, this is not necessarily a ghost story. This is, I think, more of a psychic story. But anyway, just to throw it out there because this one is from a different database completely. I was in Sedona that has adopted me, which I call the family of trees. I've been wanting to continue to show my heart to this special place and keep building a relationship with the tree people. As I stood amidst the beautiful fir trees, the little fir trees, it dawned on me that it would be a wonderful plan to hike back up here by myself on Christmas Day and read them a few chapters of my book, The Woodstock Bridge. Nice plug. I've never done this, so I told the trees out loud, as always, that I'll be back on Christmas to read to them. And what better way to show my heart? Christmas came, and that morning I was a little woozy, and I figured out that I was dehydrated. Well, I was a lot woozy, so I hydrated and with some electrolytes and waited until the late afternoon to go. I wanted to keep my promise to the tree people, but I also wanted to be careful not to endanger myself because this is a tough uphill hike. By 3:30, I figured if I didn't leave, I would lose the light, and I made a quick assessment. Yes, I was still swaying around a little bit, but I was getting better, and anyone who has been hiking with me will know how overly cautious I am, especially about dehydration. I decided to give it a try, and if at any moment I was making a wrong choice, I would turn around, and I also checked with my spiritual guides, and they said go for it. The hike up was fine, and I went up slowly, taking the safer route, continuing to drink water and electrolytes, and I got to the family of trees and greeted them. Aho, family of trees. Aho, brothers and sisters. Aho, I greet you on this special day. I offer you these humble words on the day of my brother's birthday. I consider Jesus to be my brother, and this is not in the Catholic context. He's part of my work. This is another story. So I started from the beginning of my book. First, I began with the acknowledgments of the special people who supported me, and to hear their names spoken out loud and my words traveling across the Sedona Red Rocks, wow, it was really unbelievable. To honor them in this way meant everything to me. And I read the first 2 chapters, and with each sentence was so grateful I could share this with the tree people. I hope that my words would reflect my mission to encourage people to know that everything is alive. Trees, rocks, plants, everything. We are all connected, and I sat there among the trees, which always seems to be glowing, and felt a part of them. And I could feel them smiling, and I felt a stillness and a peace in that moment. Again, so grateful to have come to this place in my life. Well, I finished and thanked them and made a tobacco offering to all that supported me. I knew that I would lose the light soon and remembered to not cut it too close, so I headed down. And as I was coming out of the woods, I felt my heart go warm. And 30 seconds later, as I came around a corner, a beautiful deer was standing in front of me. Aho, grandfather. Aho, thank you, thank you. Blessings to you, Greg the guide. So if that it may come across as kind of flaky to some people because we have these Western sensibilities about things. It's like, well, trees are trees. You cut them, you can make furniture or a house or cabinetry or something, but they're just a thing. Kind of like they grow, they have a life, but they are just a thing. But there's been many studies, ladies and gentlemen, that have shown and verifiable, repeatable studies that show that trees and plants do have fear. They have the ability to love. They have the ability to fear. They have the ability to recognize. I've talked about this on the show before, but this was actually covered by Mythbusters, and you can probably look through their archives to find the exact show that this took place on. But it was the three younger people, not the two main Mythbusters, but it was Carrie and I can't remember their names. Carrie's the girl, and then the two other ones, but Cary Grant, and whatever the other guy's name is. But they did an experiment. They had a room full of plants, and they had wired them up with sensors to some degree. And I couldn't tell you what kind of sensors, but I think they were kind of very much like EKG sensors, and they were able to get baselines. And then they had experiments where first the girl went in, was all lovely and nice and wonderful to all the plants, giving love and saying all these beautiful things to the plants. And they were able to register these electrochemical changes in the plants that would resonate or would seem to show happiness and warmth and love and these reactions to what this person was saying to them. Then the Grant went in there, and I think he was just kind of neutral, just walked in there and walked around and looked, made no expressions, made no actions, just walked through observing these plants. And it was really more, kind of the same thing as a baseline, maybe a little bit of change. But then the other guy came in. I think his name is Tori or something like that. I don't remember. But he comes in, and there's one plant, and he brutalizes the hell out of this plant. He just starts smacking it with a stick and tearing it apart, and I hate you. And they and there's this huge display of rage and brutalizing this plant. And they, of course, registered the way that registered to the other plants. They measured the reaction there, and it was very, very erratic and spiky and like, damn. So they all leave, and they wait for an indeterminate or determined amount of time, and then they repeat it. But this time when they go in, they just go in. They don't do any actions or have anything to say. So the girl goes in. And again, the plants are mimicking that, with this love and real positive, emotional response. And she comes out. The Grant guy goes in, and he just walks around again. And there's pretty much very little response from the plants. It's like he's there, they're there. No big deal. But as soon as the Tory guy walks in there, all of the plants recognized that he had entered the room again and started reacting with that real fear response. And so that is a very intelligent response. That is intelligence. And the plants were able to not only observe and recognize, but they were able to comprehend and process that this guy's a dick and he's going to hurt us. And I mean, that's so incredibly profound. We dismiss those things. We just dismiss them so easily because that's what we build stuff with. That's, trees are houses, trees are furniture, trees are whatever. They're building stuff. But trees are alive, and they have emotional responses, and it's measurable emotional response. And so they are intelligent. And I think that as we understand and learn more, we're going to understand exactly what this person said, is that there is a being in everything, because as long as it's manifest in this reality, it has to have an energy to it to make it manifest. And so is that energy conscious? Well, very probably, maybe. But obviously we have a lot to learn about that kind of stuff and on a scientific level, but it's something that the ancient people have been saying forever. First Nations were very well aware of the forests being alive and being aware of the animals being their brothers and sisters, and there was real balance achieved. And so were many other nations around the world, had a reverence for nature as an intelligence and as a being. So don't dismiss those things just because it sounds hokey. It's weird to hear it, but there is credence to what they're saying. And I think that is incredibly profound. So I kind of went out on a long tangent about that, but I just want to qualify those things, because we too easily dismiss that kind of stuff. We just too easily let it go. It's like, the tree people, what? Oh my God, better get another shot. And quite honestly, are there tree people? Maybe there are. I don't know if I would call them people. I don't know that that's a correct identifier, but I would say that there is an intelligence to these things that should be acknowledged and honored as much as possible. So come to your own conclusions, though. I don't want to, try to tell people what to believe or not to believe. It's up to you, but just my thoughts. But the next one is coming from Russia. This is a Christmas story dealing with ghosts from Russia. In the holidays, or it says, the holidays, a time for warmth, a time for joy, a time for sorcery, superstition, darkness, and boredom. At least it is in Russia. It was December at last in the far eastern Russian territory of Primorsky, and I was very keen to experience a Christmas, or whatever they called it. Now that I had friends and a girlfriend to share it with, I knew we'd be expected to spend time with the babushka, and that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. The feast of St. Nicholas came and went relatively well, a sort of Russian Thanksgiving where family and friends gathered at a massive feast and talked about the good times and the bad times. And babushka's neighbor got drunk, naked, and passed out in her sauna. Thankfully, we found him in time before he got too dehydrated. And the holidays. It turns out the holiday season in Russia only starts with the feast of St. Nicholas. Then there's New Christmas, Novoye Rождество. I don't even know if I came close pronunciating that, but I just threw some sounds at it, and it sounded kind of Russian, so we'll go with that. Which Catholics and some other Western religions celebrate on December 25th. Then there's New Year's, which during the Soviet Union was the biggest winter celebration of the year. Since Christmas was banned as a religious holiday, religion was illegal after all, the Russians celebrated exactly as they would at Christmas, but on January 1st instead. Then, of course, there's Old Christmas, still celebrated on January the 6th, as it was on the old calendar. All these dates confuse me. Did we get gifts on all 3 days? Could I get gifts on all 3 days? Even if no one else did? And these were critical questions which should be answered. The Christmas holiday breaks are so long, and so many people are off work during the entire period on paid vacations. Many, many Russians get bored about halfway through and long for returning to work. Really, really long for it. I also discovered that Christmas time or New Year's time was a traditionally superstitious period on the calendar. Party games popular during these festive, family-filled times of the year included fortune-telling, unique rituals designed to keep evil spirits away, and, of course, one of the favorite holiday pastimes, the Ouija board. Well, let's summon Grandma. Now, don't worry, this won't be another Ouija board story, even though every December to January, tens of thousands of Russians do partake. Babushka even had one at her house, a traditionally round one that looked very old and had seen many seances over the years. It was around this festive time of the year that I had my own Christmas horror. Although Lydia and I were swamped trying to move into our new apartment building, we spent as much time with Babushka as we could. Pretty much every weekend we spent up at her dasha, going over different holidays and how we'd arrange it and schedule each one. In Babushka's household, they traditionally gave gifts in January, as they were an old and established Russian Orthodox family. We ended up working out a compromise where Lydia and I would celebrate on December 25th, and we would have another celebration in January with her grandmother. Around January 2nd, we gathered our gifts and hired a taxi to take us out to the village. There was so much to transport, the train really wasn't realistic. Babushka greeted us at the door and supervised us as we brought everything in, and she was her typical forward self, lingering after, kissing me and welcome and grabbing at me as I passed by her. She'd make comments like, "Silny," and means, "oh, how strong." And I'd respond by calling her Terpki, slang for tart or other things. And she'd laugh, and her beady little eyes would twinkle. She loved every moment of it, and when we were done, I set myself up in one of the downstairs bedrooms. I've always been terrible at wrapping gifts, and they end up looking like I had used my feet, with tape everywhere and seams exposed, revealing the items inside. But dreading that prospect, I waited until the last minute, and now I had to finish wrapping everything for Babushka and Ludya's other immediate family. After a few minutes of focused failure, I heard a knock on the door. Ludya and her grandmother were going into the village center to pick up dinner. I let her know that I wanted what I wanted, and shortly after, I heard the front door to the dacha close. It didn't sink in at first, but this is the only time I'd ever been alone in Babushka's house. I'd stayed there many times over the last couple of months, but there had always been at least one other person there with me. Wow. I worked steadily for 15 or so minutes before I was disturbed again by a tapping sound, and I stopped and looked up, trying to work out where the noise would be coming from. And the room wasn't really large, and the windows were sealed tightly, so it couldn't be a draft. A few seconds later, it resumed, tap, tap, tap. I stood up and walked over to the large picture window across the room from me and slid back the curtains, and the windows were mostly iced over. But there didn't appear to be any movement. Testing the latches on each of the windows, I verified that they were very securely latched. I had just slid the curtains back into their original position when I heard the tapping again. Tap, tap, tap. The sound definitely seemed as though it was coming from somewhere behind me. The door, perhaps? Well, I exited the small bedroom and looked down the hall, and at first I assumed it was Babushka playing a trick on me. Tap, tap, tap. Leaving the hallway and led to the bedroom, I stepped out in the large living room where Babushka liked to entertain her guests. Every wall of the room was covered in a lifetime's worth of small trinkets, photos, religious icons, and the like. But no fire was going, so the large room was quite cold, and I remember shivering a bit and rubbing my arms. And suddenly I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A form, dark against the color of the light, coming from the bedroom's open door down the hallway. Well, I snapped my head around but could see nothing. Only the long, narrow hallway and the glow of the lamps in the room where I had been working. The house was pretty much disturbing all alone, so many odd angles and objects covering every surface. The shadows played strange tricks, moving while you were looking away and snapping to perfect stillness when I turned my attention to them. I walked around in a circle around the living room, turning on lamps as I went, even with all of them lit. The room only had a slight glow to it, not even enough light to read in. Babushka did like things dark. Tap, tap, tap. The sounds returned. I made my way out of the living room and toward the house's front door. The door was not locked, as is typical out in these villages, and I could make out the halo of a street lamp through the iced-over glass in the center of the door. Turning the knob very slowly, I pulled it open, and in an instant, expecting to catch some neighbor kid playing a trick, the outer world was entirely still. Light snow was falling soft and dry as talcum powder, drifting down from an inky black sky above. No moon or stars, only the snow, and the amber glow of the village's sodium streetlights reflecting off the powder, giving everything a sharp golden aura. The only footsteps in the snow belonged to Ludya and her grandmother, moving from the front steps and down the street towards the center of town. Even those footprints were quickly filling up, being erased by the night's winter storm. I searched around the perimeter of the house. No other footprints were visible. There were no birds, no animals around that I could see. Only perfect stillness. Well, my limbs were getting quite numb by the time I made it back to the front door of the house. I hadn't put on a jacket or anything prior to going out, and I was now feeling the results. Stepping back into the entry hall, I closed the door behind me and took a few steps back towards the living room. From this position in the house, I could tell the tapping sounds were not tapping after all. They were the sounds of footsteps. It sounded as though there were someone in the room directly above the front entry hallway. The steps started and stopped like someone was pacing or possibly swaying, dancing to a rhythm. I moved very quietly back to the first floor bedroom and collected my cell phone as quietly as I could. If there was an intruder in the house, I wasn't going to let them know I was there. Taking each step very cautiously, I made my way up to the second floor and down the hall towards Babushka's bedroom, the room directly over the front entry. Her door was wide open and the curtains were all pulled back, allowing plenty of light from the street to enter the room. The first thing I noticed was a moving shadow crossing back and forth in front of the wall across from the doorway. Back and forth in a steady rhythm, it flowed over the surface of the wall directly across from me. Taking a few more cautious steps, I lifted my phone and tapped 102, which is police emergency, onto the touch surface, ready to place the call if necessary. Moving closer to the doorway of her room, I changed my position so I could see further around the corner. The source of the shadow was coming from some kind of blanket or shawl or something that was hanging over the arms of a chair, swaying back and forth as if a steady wind was blowing on it. But all the windows were sealed. That was about enough for me. I turned immediately, rushed down the stairs and out the front door, following what was left of the footprints to meet up with Lydia and her grandmother. And when I explained what happened, she sighed, rolled her eyes, and scoffed, Yaje Shazao Chito Dom Pret, whatever. I told you the house was haunted. I don't speak Russian, so that's as close a fabrication of it as I can give you. Wow. Holy macaroni. I think I've read that one before on another holiday special. That's the thing with these kind of stories. You do searches for themes, and you're probably going to run into the same ones again, but that one sounds familiar as I was reading it. So my apologies if I'm duplicating a story that we've already covered in another Christmas special, but what do you do? There's only so much to work with, damn it. I got one from Australia, and this will be perfect because we have a lot of friends and wonderful, wonderful people in Australia that are a part of the show as well. So it says, going back to 1988, I was on holidays in a small country town in Australia named Willumbaum. And I was up from Sydney where I was working and actually in a haunted department. And I promised to write that one out too. And was up visiting my parents. We went out to some Christmas do. I guess that's the function. A do. And came back a bit latish that night, Christmas Eve 1988. I went straight to bed for I was buggering and dozed off. It was around about 1 a.m. when I was rudely awoken by someone whacking me hard on the left ankle. I sat up frowning and saw this man dressed in a tartan suit and wearing a tartan hat with the pom-pom on it, and he looked really pissed off about something. He leaned on a stick, but I couldn't make out his features. I remember he had gray hair, and that's about all, and that's about all I remember of him, except that he was pointing at something. Well, I watched him then turn and walk through the door. I wasn't freaking out or anything. I just shrugged and went back to sleep. I told me mom the next day, and she sat me down and said she kept seeing a little old woman standing at the bottom of her bed holding a pillow in her hands and ready to smother my mother. And I also saw shadows of someone walking down the hall, but yet there was no one there. The nightly static, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the nightly static. I wonder what time that was. 7:47. I don't know. I should keep track of the time. 7:47. I think I can remember that one because that's the plane. I don't know what that static thing is. It just kind of comes every night during the course of the show. Huh. Well, that's Cade right there. How you doing, Cade? Merry Christmas, brother. How is the future going? Because it's Christmas Day there, right? So how'd Christmas go? Have a good holiday? Extremely hot, Duke. Oh, yeah, it's summer there. You guys don't have white Christmases at all. Huh. Well, you don't have white at all anytime, Cade. You're in the tropics there, so up in the God, that would be beautiful though. I would love to be in the tropics right now. Just saying, this winter crap is just getting harder every year. Every year. Here's another short one. This one's coming from North Carolina. North Carolina. My ex-husband and I spent the night with my mama. I imagine that's grandma. A mama. M-A-W, M-A-W. Way to go, she my mama. On Christmas, 1997, and I was bigger than a house pregnant and was munching on some leftover Christmas dinner while we were all sitting in the dark while watching a movie, and I was feeling fine, and my baby was kicking about, and I moved closer to my mama so she could feel the baby move, and I sat beside her for the remainder of that movie. She had a Christmas tree sitting in front of the window and was decorated with ornaments that she had whenever my mom, aunt, and uncles were babies, and some ornaments that my pawpaw liked a lot. They were looking their age, but still gave a nice shimmer when the Christmas lights would blink near them. Well, I felt a little funny, and I thought it was a pregnancy thing, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye and turned my head to see what it was. On the tree, there was this large gold ornament, which belonged to my pawpaw, and it was spinning really fast around and around as if someone had wound it up and let go. I found this absolutely fascinating because the rest of the ornaments sat still. The tree did not move and nothing was disturbed. I tapped my mama on the shoulder and pointed to the tree. She looked surprised for a moment, and a great peace washed over her, and she said aloud, "Alvin," well, that was Pawpaw's name, "I love you too, and Merry Christmas." And then her touch lamp came on, blinked twice, and went off again. 2 months later, she passed away. For the rest of my life, I will always think that he was there, letting her know he was waiting on her to go with her to heaven. I never felt like he moved into the light until she joined him. Oh, that's beautiful. That is absolutely lovely. Another shorter one. This one's coming from Oregon. Years ago, it was Christmas time. I got a big tin full of popcorn from my mom. And last Christmas, we had the last Christmas we had together. The metal tin is almost a foot tall with an angel on it. And after eating all the popcorn, I filled it up with old pictures I had laying around. And there were all kinds of photos of cousins, camping trips, and more. Months will go by, and I'll open the tin for a certain picture that I know is in there. I love my pictures, and I'll spend hours going through them. I've planned to put them all in an album one day. Once in a while, I'd open it and notice it's only half full. Later on, there would be I think it says two or there pictures, but I think 3 pictures at the bottom of the tin. I didn't know what to think about it or understand why this could occur. There was another Christmas coming, and I was pulling up the old popcorn tin that I had filled with pictures my mom gave me before she passed away. And I started to at least put them in picture albums, and I pretty much knew what was in there now, and it wasn't as packed so full of photos, and I put them aside for later. I was up watching TV late one night, my mind drifting away to all the holidays gone by, and I thought of all my family and friends I love that are on the other side now. Looking at my old pictures brought back memories, and I missed them all so much. I told them all hello and Merry Christmas, and then I drifted off to sleep. The day before Christmas, when I opened the popcorn tin to get a special picture out, right on top were pictures of all the very people that I had said hello and Merry Christmas to. They were even a few extra of my brother who had passed, and I don't remember having it all. Our family had very few pictures of my brother, and there he was, in a picture with his favorite dog. I was happy and totally baffled. I was just so surprised at the order these certain pictures of family and friends were in. They were in the order as I was remembering them a few nights before. I sat there in silence looking at their pictures when suddenly I realized they were saying hello and Merry Christmas to me too from the other side. Oh, that's sweet. They're never too far away, ladies and gentlemen. They're just a heartbeat away. They're just a blink away. Just a little out of phase of us, but they're right around us. I believe that very much. This one, I think, is going to be our last one tonight. It's a little bit longer, not horribly, but I'll read this to you. I said, this happened a few short years ago, and this is from California, by the way. It's a psychic kind of story. This happened a few short years ago. I'd been invited to a wonderful but small gathering of family and friends, and we would be celebrating the holidays together, and I was happy. As soon as I entered the residence, I was assaulted by an onslaught of muddy air. It was like walking into thick air, and as it was, I was draped in festive sweater and slacks, and I started to sweat immediately. And I started to feel a bit woozy, and I hate it when this happens because I have to keep smiling, pretend nothing is happening. And I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable, and I felt my nighttime glasses sliding down my nose, and I wear these big old glasses so I can see. Getting older has its negatives, but I refuse to go in for eye surgery. Yes, I have tried eye contacts, but they are more uncomfortable than the glasses, and I'll just stick to looking goofy. Sorry, back to my experience. I was getting a lot of signals from an entity, and it was apparent this spirit or soul wanted my attention. So much so, my legs kept buckling out from under me. Can you imagine being at a party and seeing paranormal activity, but having to act like you don't? Well, I did my best to ignore him, but he towered over me the entire night and kept demanding I help him. Well, I gathered up the courage to go talk to my host and either leave or do something to help this trapped soul. To make the long story short, my host asked me to stay, and after the last holiday guest left, I sent this soul onward. Out of respect and request for privacy, I have not mentioned more info here. The host requested a cleansing to be done as well, so I did so, although it was not necessary. Sometimes just going through a ritual will help the people left behind. This stuck soul moved on easily, and you can see the photo taken from the party. My energy aura life force is clearly being pulled on through my open palm and atop my head. You can see the entity standing across from me, and he appears as a bright gold band of light. And there's a white mist along the floor and atop the ceiling. But it doesn't show in the picture. It's on my website, which is wonderful. But I don't have your website, so. The entity, he was a deceased, obviously relative of the hostess who had died after suffering from dementia. And this is what he carried in his spiritual body. It took a few hours for him to appear lucid enough to understand what I was gently explaining. And when he got it, he was excited to go. It was amazing to watch him walk into a portal of ethereal light. And I was finally able to go home and drop into a very deep sleep. They managed to find me, the deceased, and if I am led to help, I do so. I listen for a higher source. God leads me in every step I take. I'm just a working tool to be used for a greater good. It has nothing to do with me, and I take no credit here. I did post a picture on my website, photos page, if you want to see me, and the entity. It gives you a better idea what I go through when you view the photos. I look pretty wiped out, though my smile and my glasses have slid down to the tip of my nose. I look pretty funny, but I gave away my vanity a long, long time ago. All right, so I will put this up and you guys can see it. Okay. So she is saying, let's see, there it is. All right, I'm putting it up on the screen now. She's saying that she is being drawn on from here and here. So I have to admit, I don't see any reason for that to be there in photography terms. Again, I'm not a professional photographer, but I do photography. I have taken many college courses on photography. There's no obvious reflective surfaces that should create that. Although there is this one hot spot back here. I don't know what I'm looking at, though. It does look like a metal bar, and that certainly could create lens flares, which would appear in a similar fashion. It would look like a vertical bar, but I don't know. That doesn't seem hot enough. Usually a lens flare, when something's creating a lens flare, it's not a muted white, it's like a brilliant white. It's called a hotspot in photos. And a lot of times you will see the artifacts of those. Could this be emanating from this metal bar back here? Sure. It really could. Is it? I don't know. I would assume it's a rounded surface, so I imagine the flash hit it, and could have refracted this way and that way to create these artifacts that we're seeing here, but I can't be sure, and I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not a huge leap to say that it's possible this is spiritual. I just don't know. I can't say for sure. All I can say is that this is what this woman claims, and God bless her for helping spirits that need crossing. I mean, that's perfect. That's wonderful. If spirits need crossing, I'm glad there's somebody helping them do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this night. I have certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. I want to wish you all a wonderful and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. Just know that I'm absolutely honored that you all come here and take part in our show. I will try to be back tomorrow. I don't know what time though. I don't know. It's Christmas. I mean, we celebrate Christmas, and I don't know. We'll try to make it as close to 7:00 as I can. If you're interested in joining us then, however, I imagine it'll be a pretty small audience because everybody's got plans, and that's okay. But I will come in and do some kind of show for you guys tomorrow. So I just want you all to know I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. I love you all sincerely. I hope you have a wonderful, warm, and loving holiday, whatever it is you celebrate. And thank you so much for all that you've done for us here on the show. If you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe, and let someone you know that is into the paranormal, let them know about the Paranormal Portal. Thank you, guys. I will be back tomorrow. Good night and sweet dreams.